Hi, I'm Jackson from RVShare and Outdoorsy, and today I'm going to show you Balsam. Balsam is a 2020 Sunseeker 2250 SLE, and it's a Class C RV built on a Chevy chassis, which means it drives itself. And these type of RVs, these Class C RVs, are usually built on 1 to 2 chassis. They're either built on Chevy chassis or Ford chassis, and the main difference being is the Fords usually have a little more torque, whereas the Chevys are usually a more smoother ride and have better miles per gallon. So going over the front, I'll show you under the hood briefly. There's a couple things to mention. You should never have to go under the hood, but just to see what you're working with. It's a Chevy 4500 engine, and what's worth mentioning is it has a separate battery unit that powers the chassis. The interior of the RV that powers all the utilities and appliances has a separate battery. And the main difference between the two batteries is this battery is hooked up to an alternator so it can recharge itself, whereas the battery for the interior of the RV is not. So that's under the hood. Coming around the driver's side, we'll start with the storage. First on the left, this is the access port for the generator. You shouldn't have to touch this because it's all controlled from the inside, but just to show you what you're working with, it's an Onan 4,000 watt generator, and this thing is more powerful enough to have the TV, the microwave, the oven all going at once. Pretty heavy duty. Every time before I rent it, I check the oil level, make sure it's full, and shouldn't have any issues. This runs from the inside, it's all powered. It's a high quality generator. Coming down here, this is your propane tank, and this is another thing before every rental I always check out. I top you off with a full propane tank, and this is what powers the, you can power the heat through this. You can use it to power the oven inside. It's used to keep the refrigerator and freezer going. It's much more fuel efficient than using the gas from the generator. And something else about the generator is it has a safety feature where well, let me back up. The generator is connected to the same fuel source as the truck. It all comes from the same gas tank. So when you're running the fuel through the generator, it has a safety feature where it'll automatically shut off if the fuel tank hits 25% or less, which is a great feature because if you're ripping through fuel and don't realize it, it'll shut off so you still have enough gas to power the chassis and go refuel. So that's important to mention. Over here on the sides, this is your freshwater hookup. If you're putting any fresh water into the tank, this is where you're gonna put it. What I like to do is I hook up a fresh water hose and I have a water pump, and I'll pump the water inside. I also charge an extra $40 and I'll fill the water tank for you, all 40 gallons. And if you have a city source water or pressurized water, there's another jack for that, and you can use this to fill the fresh water tank as well. Coming a little further down, this runs on gasoline, unleaded, not diesel. Coming over here, this is where your electrical hookup is that powers the generator. So in order for the generator to work, this has to be plugged in. If you unplug this, the generator won't power anything inside the RV. Now, if you have an external power source, I highly recommend hooking this up because you can use that instead of using gas from the generator, and will save you a lot in fuel. And another thing that I include is if you need an extension to hook up to an outdoor power outlet, I do have an extension cord. And this is a good space for storage. I wouldn't overdo it just because of the wires. You don't want to damage any of the wires, but it's a good amount of space. There's a lot of space in the interior for storage too. So coming around the back, there's not too much to explain here. I don't recommend any customers go on the top because there's nothing to really see up there. There's caulking on the sides that I checked that helps keep this insulated and waterproof. I highly recommend you do not go on top because it can cause a lot of damage. Not too much to explain back here. Coming over here, this is some more storage. Pretty ample space, and I also throw in a couple tarps. Feel free to do whatever you want with those tarps. And for all these storage, they all have locks, which is right on the keychain, so you have locks to lock anything. Coming further down, this is behind here is how you access the refrigerator workings and the oven and the refrigerator. You should not have to touch any of that. Right here, you got some external power sources. coming down here, this is more storage, and I also include a couple things that will help you with your rental experience. So I include 2 wheel chocks. You can set these to make sure you're not moving after you're parked. Inside this bag, I have some leveling blocks, which I highly recommend you use. You always want to make sure the RV is level before setting it up, because when you're walking around inside of it, if it isn't level, that's not good for the tires, and just to be more level will make your experience better. I do have a leveling thing inside that you just set on the back of the hitch, and it tells you if the RV is level or not. I'll show you that when we go inside. Also have a waste tank hose. If you want to use it and clean it, that's great. I would love that, but you don't have to do that. I do that as part of the cleaning fee. I include 2 freshwater hoses back here that you can use to fill the water. And I also have a hose support for the waste hose, so it's gravity fed. So if you don't want any of this stuff, when you come to rent, let me know and I'll take it out and you can use more of this for storage. But all that's complimentary. Feel free to use it. And right here, if you choose to pay extra to have the solar set up, I have a solar panel. And the solar panel is great because it kind of acts as a battery tender for the main battery. So if you have the solar panel going out, like today it's super hot and sunny, if you had it out, it'll keep the RV battery charged and you won't have to worry about the battery getting fried or running out of juice. But that's right here. Another thing, do not bring your own solar panel and hook it up, because these solar panels are specifically fitted for this brand, and they have reverse polarity. So if you use a third-party panel and hook it up, it could do some damage to the electrical. So that pretty much covers it on the outside. I'm gonna upload another video and we'll talk about how the awning works and talk about the interior Balsam.